The foal couldn't have been more than 2 weeks old. Spindly legs, a coat the color of desert dust, and eyes too big for his little head, eyes that fixed on the cowboy with the kind of stubborn trust usually found only in dogs or fools. And yet there he was, following Eli Carver step for step down the narrow stretch of prairie, practically tripping over his boots. Eli sighed, pushing his hat back. "Go on now. Git." The foal blinked, then took another step closer. Eli muttered something unholy and kept walking. Sunrise spilled across the distant ridges, washing everything in a copper shine. He had planned to ride into town, get a coffee so strong it could melt a horseshoe, and maybe pick up extra cartridges before heading north to look for stray cattle. None of those plans included babysitting a wild Mustang baby. He'd found the mare earlier that morning, lying still near a dry ravine. No bullet wounds, no cougar tracks, just the desert taking what it always took. The foal had been nudging her side, confused, lost. Eli had only checked the body, whispered a quick, "Sorry, girl," and turned to leave. That's when the damn thing started following him. "I ain't your pa," he reminded it. The foal disagreed by trotting up until its nose bumped his hand. Eli rubbed his face. "Fine. Walk with me till you get bored." But the foal didn't get bored. It trotted, stumbled, corrected itself, then trotted some more. Every few minutes it pressed its nose against Eli's thigh like it needed reassurance he was still there. It was ridiculous. Eli Carver had been shot twice, was known in 3 counties as a man who could throw a punch hard enough to rattle bones, and had once stared down a drunken outlaw without blinking. Yet here he was letting a baby horse shadow him like some guardian spirit. The wind shifted, carried something faint, smoke. Wood smoke. Eli stopped. The foal bumped into his leg again. "You smell that too?" he asked. The foal gave a tiny, squeaky whinny. Smoke this far out couldn't be from a settlement. Maybe a campfire. Maybe trouble. This land was known for bandits drifting through, hiding in abandoned traps and claim cabins. Eli loosened the strap on his holster. Not a threat, just a precaution. They walked toward the scent. The prairie gave way to a thin line of trees hugging a stream. Cottonwoods whispered overhead. The air felt cooler, but the smell of burning pine was unmistakable now. Eli stepped lightly. The foal tried to copy him, which only resulted in louder, clumsier steps. "Kid," he whispered to the horse, "you're about as sneaky as a brass band." Up ahead, tucked behind bushes, was a cabin. Small. Weather-beaten. Smoke curled from the chimney like a lazy finger drawing shapes in the sky. Eli didn't recognize the place. He took one careful step forward. A rifle cracked. Not fired. Cocked. "Don't move," a woman's voice warned. Eli froze. The foal froze because Eli froze. The brush rustled, and she appeared, a young woman, mid-20s, boots caked with mud, a black dress faded by seasons and sun, and a rifle aimed straight at his chest with hands that didn't tremble. Her hair was tied up in a loose knot, a few stubborn curls falling against her cheek. And her eyes, sharp, dark, fierce, didn't blink once. "I said don't move," she repeated. Eli raised his hands slow. "Howdy, ma'am. Didn't mean to trespass. This is my land. Didn't know that." She kept the rifle steady. "Turn around. Go back the way you came." "Wish I could. Got a shadow followin' me." Her gaze flicked down. Saw the foal. Her expression faltered for half a second, softening in surprise, then hardened again. "That one yours?" "Nope. Just met him this mornin'. Seems to think I'm worth followin'." The foal chose that moment to step forward and sniff her boot. She didn't shoot, which Eli counted as progress. "What happened to his mother?" she asked quietly. "Dead. Natural." Silence tugged between them. A breeze rustled past. The cabin seemed lonely, too lonely for someone her age. Her eyes carried something, loss, maybe. The kind people didn't say out loud. Eli cleared his throat. "I ain't lookin' for trouble. Just smelled smoke. Wanted to make sure no bandits set up camp. I'm alone." Looks like it. You still need to leave. The foal bleated its small, broken whinny. The woman glanced down again, and something in her expression cracked at the edges. Eli spoke gently. Ma'am, he won't make it out here without milk or someone lookin' after him. That's not my concern. Maybe not. But he's concerned 'bout you. As if on cue, the foal pressed its head gently against her knee. She exhaled sharply, a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it for days. The rifle finally lowered an inch. My name's Eli Carver, he offered softly. She hesitated. Nora Wynne. Eli nodded. Pleasure to meet you, Nora Wynne, though I'd prefer you weren't pointin' a firearm at me. She lowered the rifle fully, though her posture stayed tense. You shouldn't be here. Didn't plan to be. You need to leave before. A sound cut her off. A cracking branch. Heavy footsteps. Not one set. Multiple. Nora stiffened. Eli's hand dropped to his revolver. The foal crept closer to him instinctively. She whispered, They're back. Eli whispered back, Who's they? Before she could answer, a man stepped out from behind a tree, rifle slung over his shoulder and a grin too wide to mean anything good. Well now, the man drawled, look what wandered into our little corner. Another man appeared beside him. And another. 3 total. All armed. Nora's breath hitched. Eli stepped in front of her without thinking. The foal pressed in behind his legs, trembling. Well, Eli murmured under his breath, looks like this morning just got a whole lot uglier. The man in front, broad shoulders, greasy blonde hair, a jaw like he'd carved it with a dull knife, looked Eli over with a lazy kind of cruel interest. His boots sank into the soft earth, steps heavy and confident. The two behind him fanned out, forming a loose semicircle around the clearing as if they'd done this sort of thing often. Nora's rifle trembled now, just barely. Eli caught the motion from the corner of his eye. Friend of yours? Eli asked quietly. Her lips tightened. No. The blond man grinned wider. Oh, honey, you wound me. Eli straightened, shoulders squared, hat brim low. You fellas lost? Or just rude to ladies by habit? Blondie spat to the side. This here widow owes us compensation. Debt, you could call it. Nora's breath hitched at the word widow. Eli noticed but didn't turn. I doubt she owes you anything except a reason to leave. One of the men in back laughed. Bold words for somebody standin' between us and our business. Eli didn't blink. Business is the part one ain't buyin'. Blondie's grin flattened into something dangerous. Her husband worked for us. Died on the job. Shame, really. He owed money when he passed, and debts don't die with a man. They fall to the next of kin. Nora's voice rose, cracking with anger. That's not how that works. You cheated him. Lied to him. And yet, Blondie said, he still owed. Eli's fingers brushed the butt of his revolver. Not drawing. Not yet. Seems to me you boys came to squeeze someone who ain't got anything to give. She's got the cabin, one said. And the land, another added. And she's got a temper, Blondie said with a half sneer. Real sorry 'bout your husband, Nora. But rules are rules. Nora stepped forward, rifle raised higher despite the shake in her arms. You don't get to speak his name. Blondie sked mockingly. Look at you. Shaken like a leaf. If you shoot, you'll miss. Eli's voice dropped low. Try her and find out. Blondie raised a brow at Eli. You some kinda hired gun? No. Then what the hell're you doin' here? Eli didn't have a good answer. He settled on the truth. Walked up following a foal. Found trouble. The 3 men stared at the tiny Mustang Foal, who stared back from behind Eli like a confused child. Blondie snorted. You're tellin' me you're riskin' your hide for a lady you don't know? And a horse baby? Eli shrugged. Seen worse reasons. Blondie lost his grin completely. He raised his hand. A signal. The two men behind him tightened their grips on their rifles. Eli's mind sharpened instantly, senses stretching thin like wire. He shifted his weight, readying for a draw, praying Nora wouldn't fire early or freeze altogether. Then, a sharp crack split the air. But it wasn't a gunshot. The foal, trembling, had kicked a fallen branch, snapping it loud enough that all three outlaws flinched, their focus breaking in the split-second instinctive reaction. Eli moved. His revolver cleared the holster in one smooth, practiced flash. Dust sprayed, metal glinted, and the barrel snapped up before any of the outlaws could blink. He fired once. The bullet slammed into the ground inches from Blondie's boot, throwing dirt onto his pant leg. "A warning," Eli said calmly. "Next goes higher." The two behind Blondie stumbled back in surprise. Blondie's face twitched. Not fear, not quite. But a man reevaluating. "Didn't expect you to be fast." Eli kept his stance, steady as a post. "Then adjust your expectations." Blondie's lips curled. "You gonna shoot 3 men?" "For her." Nora spoke before Eli could. "He isn't the only one with a gun." Her voice was steadier now, firmer. She planted her feet, shoulders squared. Eli could almost hear her husband's memory breathing life into her spine. Blondie noticed too. His eyes narrowed, calculating. "All right then," he said slowly. "We'll be back tomorrow for payment. Or collateral." Eli tilted his head. "That wasn't the deal you boys walked in with. We're making a new one." Blondie jabbed a finger at Nora. "Find something worth the amount owed. Or we collect in other ways." The message was clear. Eli cocked his revolver again, and Blondie actually stepped back this time. "Try to lay a hand on her." Blondie held up his palms mockingly. "Not today. Tomorrow." The 3 outlaws retreated, disappearing between the trees. Branches snapped, boots stomped, and their voices faded with distance. When they were finally gone, Nora exhaled shakily and lowered her rifle. Eli secured his revolver. "You all right?" She nodded once, then sank onto the cabin step, face pale beneath the afternoon sun. "They killed him," she whispered. "My husband said it was an accident." Her fingers clenched. "But I know better." The foal approached her, nudging her shoulder gently. To Eli's surprise, Nora let out a small, broken laugh at the gesture. "He likes you," Eli said softly. "I don't know why," she murmured, stroking the foal's tiny muzzle. "He's got good instincts," Eli replied. "Better than most men." Nora looked up at him then, truly looked at him, not with suspicion, but with grateful, exhausted eyes. "I don't know who you are, Eli Carver, but thank you." Eli removed his hat, ran a hand through his hair, and sighed. "Reckon those fellas'll be back. And they won't come to talk." "I know," she whispered. "Got anyone in town you trust?" "Sheriff." She shook her head. "Sheriff's useless. Those men own half of him." Eli's jaw tightened. Corrupt lawmen were a plague anywhere the land stretched far enough to hide sins. "Well," he said after a moment, "looks like you could use help." "What kind of help?" He glanced toward the trees where the outlaws disappeared. "The kind that shoots straighter than yours." Despite everything, she almost smiled. "And what do you want in return?" Eli thought. Honestly thought. He had no reason to stay. He had cattle to check on, supplies to buy, a lonely ranch to get back to. He had no business getting tangled in a widow's trouble. But the foal pressed its head into his side again. And Nora looked like a woman standing on the last plank of a collapsing bridge. "Don't want anything," he finally said. "But I ain't ridin' off knowin' they're comin' back to scare you." Nora swallowed. "So you'll stay. For now." The foal bleated approvingly. Eli muttered, "Seems the kid agrees." Nora wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve. "Thank you." Eli stepped closer, voice gentle but firm. "You're safe today. Tomorrow, we'll be ready." Nora glanced toward the tree lean, fear curling behind her eyes again. What if they bring more men? Eli's expression hardened like forged steel. Then we make sure none of them walk away happy. The foal nuzzled Nora again. For the first time since he'd arrived, she didn't look entirely alone. The rest of the day softened into an uneasy quiet, the kind that settles right before a storm. Nora moved around the cabin with stiff, practiced motions, checking shutters, securing the door, gathering what little ammunition she had. Eli helped without being asked. He stacked wood beside the porch, patched a loose hinge, reinforced the doorframe with an extra plank. The foal followed them everywhere, as if worried the humans might fall apart if it looked away even for a moment. "You got a name for him?" Eli asked, handing Nora a bucket of water he'd drawn from the stream. She shook her head. "Didn't plan on keeping him. Looks like he's plannin' on keepin' you." Nora tried not to laugh, but the smile tugging at the corner of her mouth betrayed her. "What about Dusty?" Eli glanced at the full coat, still the pale tan of wind-blown sand. "Dusty suits him." The foal bleated in agreement, and Nora rubbed his neck gently. Even through all her tension, her hands were soft when she touched the little creature. They ate a small supper, cornbread and beans, and sat on the porch as the sun dipped behind the horizon. Crickets chirped. The air cooled. Dusty curled up at Nora's feet and drifted into deep, twitchy sleep. Nora looked out across the darkening trees, fingers tightening around her tin cup. "They were going to take the cabin," she whispered. "Said my husband never paid what he owed. But he did. I saw him give them the money. Right at the table in town. He didn't know a damn thing about their plans for him. They needed a scapegoat. Somebody to take the fall for their botched job." She swallowed hard. 2 days later they brought me his body and told me it was an accident. Eli's jaw clenched. He'd seen that story more times than a man should. "What was your husband's name?" "Samuel." Eli nodded. "Samuel Wynne. He deserved better." Nora's voice nearly broke. "Yes, he did." They sat in silence. The stars blinked awake one by one. Eli could hear Nora breathing, thin, uneven breaths of a woman trying desperately not to fall apart in front of a stranger. And yet, something about her felt familiar. Not her face, not her voice, but the loneliness. Eli knew that feeling too well. He looked at her gently. "You ain't alone anymore. Not tonight." Her eyes glistened, but she said nothing. When the last light faded, Eli stood. "You should sleep," Nora said quietly. "You've done more than enough." "Can't sleep," Eli replied. "Not with them planning to ride in tomorrow. I'll keep watch." Nora hesitated. "Then, at least take the chair on the porch. I don't want you standing guard all night." He accepted. She disappeared inside briefly and returned with a wool blanket. "For the cold," she said. Eli took it. "Thank you." She lingered a second longer, eyes softening toward him. For a moment, he wondered if she wanted to say more. But instead she whispered, "Be safe," and slipped inside, leaving the door cracked enough that Dusty could wander through. The night stretched slow. Eli stayed awake, gun on his lap, ears tuned to every rustle in the brush. Coyotes yipped somewhere far off. The breeze carried the smell of pine and distant smoke, old smoke from earlier, not fresh. Hours crawled. And then a twig snapped. Eli's eyes snapped open fully. He was already alert, but now he was steel. He rose silently. Another snap. Movement beyond the trees. Not a deer. Too heavy. Too intentional. Eli spoke low through the cracked door, not loud enough to panic her, just enough for Nora to hear. "Nora, wake up." Within seconds she was beside him, rifle in hand, Dusty at her feet looking confused and frightened. "Are they here?" she whispered. "Maybe. Stay behind me." They stepped onto the porch. Moonlight silvered the clearing. The trees stood dark, unmoving, but the rustling continued. 3 shadows emerged first. Then 2 more behind them. Lantern light bobbed in human hands, casting long, crooked silhouettes across the ground. 5 men, not 3. Blondie stepped forward, smirking like the devil himself. "Evenin', Nora," he called. "We figured we'd start early. Little nighttime visit." Eli stepped off the porch, revolver already drawn. "Last chance. Turn around and walk outta here." Blondie chuckled. "Son, you got courage. But courage and 5 bullets ain't enough." Eli's eye twitched. The man had counted his shots without even seeing him reload earlier. Smart. That made him more dangerous. Blondie flicked his hand. 2 men split left, 2 right, forming a half-circle around the cabin. Nora's breath quickened. Dusty pressed against her leg, trembling. Eli lowered himself slightly into a stance. His voice was calm as the moon. "Nora, when I move, you get inside. Bar the door behind you. I'm not leaving you. You ain't leaving. Just staying alive." Blondie whistled. "End the talkin'. Let's take what we came for." Everything happened fast. Blondie reached for his gun. Eli fired. The shot tore through Blondie's shoulder, spinning him backward with a scream. Chaos erupted instantly. Gunfire lit the night, bullets thudding into wood, splintering tree bark. "Nora, inside!" Eli shouted. She obeyed, dragging Dusty with her. The door slammed. A latch dropped. Eli dove behind the chopping block beside the porch. More shots cracked the air. He fired twice, taking down 1 man clean through the thigh. The outlaw fell screaming, gun dropping from his hand. The others flanked. Eli rolled behind the water trough. A bullet grazed the wood an inch from his cheek. Then, silence. The men were repositioning. Eli listened. Footsteps on the left. 1 man. On the right, 2. He waited. Breath held. 1 outlaw charged. Eli popped up, fired point-blank, dropped him. Another charged from the right. Eli's gun clicked empty. The outlaw grinned savagely. "Outta bullets." Eli hurled the empty gun at his face. The man flinched. Just enough. Eli lunged, tackling him to the ground. They rolled in the dirt, fists flying. Eli took a punch to the ribs. Grit filled his teeth. He swung back, hard, breaking the man's nose. Blood sprayed. The outlaw collapsed. A shot rang from behind the cabin. Eli spun, heart slamming. Blondie, bleeding, furious, staggered forward with his rifle aimed at the porch. At Nora. "No!" Eli roared. But Blondie never fired. A blast thundered from the cabin doorway. Nora's rifle. Blondie crumpled onto the dirt, rifle falling from his hands, eyes glassy as they stared at the moon. Silence spilled over the clearing. Only the wind moved. Eli rose slowly, chest heaving. Nora's silhouette filled the doorway, rifle shaking in her hands. Her eyes locked onto Eli's, searching, terrified he'd be lying somewhere in the dark. He approached her carefully. "It's over," he whispered. She dropped the rifle and stepped forward, hands trembling as she touched his arm, then his chest, making sure he was solid, warm, alive. Her voice broke. "Eli, thank you." Dusty pushed between them with a relieved squeak. Eli placed a hand on Nora's cheek, gentle as a whisper. "You fought brave." She leaned into his touch, tears slipping down, caught by the moonlight. "I couldn't let them take everything." "You didn't," he murmured. "You didn't." The night quieted fully. The danger faded. The cabin, once a place of fear, felt like a refuge again. Nora looked up at him, tired, relieved, grateful in a way that settled deep into Eli's chest. He didn't know what tomorrow held. But he knew one thing. He wasn't riding away at sunrise. Not from this woman. Not from this foal. Not from this unexpected place where fate had pulled him. Nora whispered, "Stay. Just a little while longer." Eli nodded. "Yeah," he said softly. "I reckon I will."